Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently, we are in the Second Chronicles, and we're going to be studying chapters 2 through 4. And this is going to Solomon is preparing to build the temple. He will construct the temple of God. And keep this in mind, this is the first official house of God that will be constructed. The other place of worship was the tabernacle, which was, remember, a portable tent. You can say it was a portable um, uh, uh, temple or place of worship. Um, Also, I think it's important to understand the purpose of the temple when we talk about the place, when we talk about um, when we think about worship, um, and like our kind of general church service was not the Old Testament place of worship. So the temple, there was singing there. There was, remember David had provided for musicians and stuff, but it wasn't congregational in the sense of how we know it. So you had the burnt offerings, you had the offering, the sanctuaries and all that, and we kind of read through this, and it was a place of atonement, and so it was excuse me. What we think about as a place of worship wouldn't happen for centuries later, even centuries after the birth of the New Testament. In the first century church, they met in this temple that's Solomon's get. Well, I'm sorry, it's not this temple because this temple gets destroyed. But the new temple at the time, Christians met in there, and they studied and they sang. Um, and for the first century, and that eventually, was done away with in 70 A.D. The Gentile church, however, met from house to house, and they would meet in usually the homes of wealthy Christians who opened their homes, their large homes. And so really the idea of the megachurch wasn't where there's one gathering. Didn't again that wouldn't happen to really. They actually started again building cathedrals and things like that. So the temple was really a place of atonement. It was a place where you actually came. The worship part was you really observed it because you would hear the musicians singing praises to God, um, and atone for your sins, and then the priests, you kind of, and from Israel's standpoint too, you did they would see the kind of manifestation of God's glory. Okay, so let's get into it. This is Solomon's preparing to build the temple, and then he will build the temple. It says Solomon decided to build a temple for the name of Yahweh and a royal palace for himself. Now we'll see this at the end of all of this. It's a 20-year period of time. So he assigned 70,000 men as porters, 80,000 men as stone cutters in the mountains, and 3,600 as supervisors over them. Now, I want you to keep this here in mind just to file it back, because ask the question, who's paying for all of this? Now just file it, but who's paying for all of this? Okay? Now the people gave, by the way, part of it is that people gave for the building of the temple. But there was also a heavy taxation. Verse 3. Then Solomon sent word to King Hiram of Tyre, do for me what you did for my father David. You sent him cedars to build him a house to live in. Now I'm building a temple for the name of Yahweh my God in order to dedicate it to him, for burning fragrance incense before him, for displaying the rolls of bread in of the presence continuously, and for sacrificing burnt offerings, and for morning and evening, the Sabbath and the new moons, and the appointed festivals of the Lord our God. This is ordained for Israel forever. Now, this again is what the temple would. This is what you went to the temple. This is what you would kind of have saw. Verse 5. The temple that I am building will be great for our God and greater than any of the gods. But who is able to build a temple for him, since even the heavens and the highest heavens cannot contain him? Who am I that I should build a temple for him, except as a place to burn incense before him? Now, again, this is, I think, great explanation in terms of what exactly the house of God would be. It is not like any of the pagan places of worship. But it also, he says, it's not in any sense that we're going to pretend like we're going to store the God of gods in this place here. Verse 7, therefore send me a craftsman who is skilled and engraving the work with gold and silver, bronze and iron, with purple, crimson, and blue yarn. He will work with the craftsmen who are with me in Judah and Jerusalem, appointed by my father David. Also send me cedar, cypress, alderman, logs, and Lebanon, for I know that your servants know how to cut the trees of Lebanon. Note that my servants will be with your servant to prepare logs for me in abundance, because the temple I am building will be great and wonderful. I think it's also great to note that too, people outside of Jerusalem would be involved in building the temple, in the sense of helping and aiding. Verse 10, and I will give your servants and woodcutters who cut the trees 10,000 bushels of wheat flour, 100,000 bushels of barley, 110,000 gallons of wine, 110,000 gallons of oil. And then King Hiram wrote a letter and sent it to Solomon. Because the Lord loves his people, he has set you over them as king. Hiram also said, may the God of Israel, who made the heavens and the earth, be praised. He gave King David a wise son with insight and understanding, who would build a temple for the Lord and a royal palace for himself. I have now sent Hiram Abi, a skillful man who has understanding. He is the son of a woman from the daughters of Dan. Okay, so he's, again, you see this kind of intermingling here. By the way, it wasn't against the law of God to marry outside of Israel, as long as they embrace the God of Israel, embrace the law of God. Verse 14, he is the son of a woman from the daughters of Dan. His father is a man of Tyre. He knows how to work with gold, silver, bronze, iron, stone, in wood, and with purple, blue, crimson yarn, and fine linen. He knows how to do all kinds of engraving to execute any design that may be given him. I have sent him to be with your craftsmen and the craftsmen of my Lord, your father David. Now, let my Lord send the wheat, barley, oil, and wine to his servants as promised. We will cut logs from Lebanon, as many as you need, and oh crap. Okay, let's see here, guys. I lost my page here. All right. So, where was I? Oh, verse 15. Now let my Lord send the wheat, barley, oil, wine to his servant as promised. We will cut logs from Lebanon, as many as you need, and bring them to you as rafts by sea of Joppa, so you can take them up to Jerusalem. Solomon. So I this is kind of interesting. Notice verse 17 here. Now, I want to say this. Um, Notice how God is giving skill to people to do various works. Over time, you see this. And that, so again, not only Israel was involved in building the temple of God, Israel was never only to be the soul. And I think what is kind of interesting about this, that Haram recognizes God's hand on the nation of Israel, and then God will bless him for that. Verse 17, Solomon took a census of all the foreign men in the land of Israel after the census that his father David had conducted. The total was 153,600 men. Solomon made 70,000 of them porters, 80,000 stone cutters in the mountains, and 36 supervisors to make the people work over them. All right, let's go to chapter 3. Then Solomon began. I'm going to kind of skip through this as well because some of it is going to be kind of tedious. Then Solomon began to build the Lord's temple in Jerusalem on Mount Moriah, where the Lord had appeared to his father David. At the site, David had prepared the threshing floor of Onan, the Jebusite. He began to build on the second day of the month in the 4th year of his reign. So the second day, the 4th year. So now, 4 years into Solomon's reign, he begins to build the temple. These are Solomon's foundations for building the temple. The length was 90 feet, and the width 30 feet. Portico was which was across the front, extended across the width, and the temple was 30 feet wide. Its height was 30 feet. He overlaid the inner surface of pure gold. The large rooms he had paneled with cypress wood, overlaid with fine gold, decorated with the palms, trees, and chains. He adorned the temple with precious stones, for beautiful and gold was gold pavilion. He overlaid the temple beams, the threshold, its walls, and doors with gold, and he carved cherubims on the wall. He made the most holy place, its length and corresponding with its width of the temple 30 feet, and its width 30 feet. He overlaid it with 45,000 pounds of gold. The weight of the nails were 20 ounces of gold, and he overlaid the ceiling. Overlaid the ceiling with gold. Now you will remember a lot of this too. David had already prepared for him in abundance before his death. Verse 10, he made 2 cherubims of sculptured work for the most holy place. He overlaid them with gold. The overall length of the wings of the cherubim was 30 feet, and the wings of one was 7.5 feet, touching the wall of the room. The other was 7.5 feet, touching the wing of the other cherubim. The wing of the other cherubim was 7.5 feet, touching the wall of the room. Its other wing was 7.5 feet, reaching the wing of the other cherubim. The wingspan of these cherubims was 30 feet. They stood on their feet and faced the larger room. He made a veil of blue, purple, crimson yarn, fine linen, and he wove cherubims into it. The front of the temple he made 2 pillars 27 feet high. The capital on top of each was 7.5 feet high. He had made chain work of inner sanctuary, and also put it on top of the pillars. He made 100 pomegranates and fastened them into the chain work. Then he set up the pillars front of the sanctuary, one on the right hand and the other on the left. He named the one on the right hand Jason, and the one on the left hand Boaz. All right, let's go to chapter 4. He made a bronze altar 30 feet long, 30 feet wide, 30 feet high. He made a cast metal reservoir 15 feet from the brim to brim, perfectly round. It was 7.5 feet high and 45 feet in circumference. The likeness of oxen was below it, completely encircling it. 10 10 every half yard, completely surrounding the reservoir. The oxen were cast into two rows when the reservoir was cast. It stood on its oxen, three facing the north, three facing the west, three facing the south, and three facing the east. The reservoir was on top of them. All of the hindquarters were towards the center. The reservoir was 3 inches thick, and its rim was fashioned like a brim of the cup of the lily blossom. It could hold 11,000 gallons. He made 10 basins for washing. He put 5 basins on the right, 5 on the left. The part of the burnt offerings were rinsed in them, but the reservoir was used by the priest for washing. He made 10 gold lampstands according to their specifications and put them in the sanctuary, 5 on the right and 5 on the left. He made 10 tables and placed them on the sanctuary, 5 on the right and 5 on the left. He made 100 gold bowls. He made the courtyard for the priests and the large courtyard and doors for the court. He overlaid the doors with bronze. He put a reservoir on the right side towards the southeast. Then Hiram made the pots and the shovels and the bowls. So Hiram finished doing the work that he was doing for Solomon in God's temple. 2 pillars of bowls and capitals of top of the pillars, and 2 grated for covering both bowls of the capitals that were on top of the pillars. The 400 pomegranates for the 2 rows of pomegranates for each grating covered both capital bowls for the top. He also made the water carts, the basins, and the water cart. The one reservoir was and the 12 oxen underneath, the pots and the shovels, the forks, and all the utensils. Hiram made them for the king Solomon and for the Lord's temple. All these were made of polished bronze. The king had them cast in clay mold in the Jordan valley between Sukkah and Zeradan. Solomon made all these utensils in such great abundance that the weight of the bronze was not determined. Solomon also made the equipment in the temple of God, the gold altar, the tables on which to put the bread of the presence, the lampstand, and the lamps of the pure gold to burn in front of the inner sanctuary according to the specifications. The flowers, lamps, the gold tongs, the purest gold, the wick trimmers, sprinkled basins, laded fire pans, the purest gold, and the entryway to the temple, its inner doors to the most holy place, and the doors of the temple sanctuary gold. Now again, I know I read through that because that's for our sake. If you don't have a picture, I'm going to try see if I can pull up a couple of pictures here. Because if you don't understand what's going on, here's a couple of artists' renderings here. Okay, these are a couple of artists' renderings. Now, just think about kind of all of those descriptions there, minus the utensils and stuff. That big bowl he was talking about. Let me see if I can move my screen out. I don't know if you all can see that. All right, so okay, let's go up on this side over here for now. Okay, so if you can see the picture here, if you could see all of what he was, that kind of picture there. Let's take another picture here. That kind of gives you another, again, these are just artist renditions of what the temple looked like. I don't know if you can see the kind of cutaway, how it must look in terms of all of the gold. Look at the cherubim. I don't know if you can see that clearly. If you look towards the back, there's some, if you look in there, you see some stairs, some steps. Those are the golden cherubim. Okay, So this was a pretty impressive temple, gold and everything else here. As I said, um, you know, again, that's kind of just give us a picture of what the temple would look like. So okay, I am going to um, we'll pick it up and God is going to show up next time for the um, dedication of the temple. All right, guys, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP the Bible Perspective. If you have a thought or comment, as always, add your comments, and remember, all comments are welcome. Are welcome. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Till next time, I'll see you in the next study.